Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2021 Wells Fargo Championship. This is my money picks. I thank you for stopping by. And what I do here is I'm going to go into some deep analysis on why I picked who I picked. These picks will be my top 15 picks. Plus, I'm also going to give you my 3 favorite bets at the end of the show. So stick around for that. I think you'll find some interesting there. And with that said, let's jump into this. Okay, first off, I know I mention this every time, but I'm going to keep mentioning it for you new people that might have stopped by. I do have a promotion, a giveaway for the PGA Championship. And what it's for is I am paying for 10 people randomly selected for their $20 entry into the Millie Maker that is coming up for the PGA Championship. And I am going to double that number to 20 winners if I reach 500 subscribers by, the AT&T Byron Nelson is when I'll announce the winner. So by May 12th, if it's there, I'll go ahead and spin that wheel 10 more times and we'll get 10 more winners. And all you need to do to get into this giveaway is very simply just click the like button and subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and just tell me who you think is going to win the PGA Championship. And good luck to all you guys. All right, let's jump into this. Okay. So if you missed my preview show, I always kind of sum up my top skill rankings that I'm going to be using from all my modeling and analysis. And this is the skill set ranking that I'm going to be looking at on how I think you need to pick your golfers and how they can win at the Wells Fargo. And simply stated, ball striking is key here still. It's been all around. I know you've heard guys probably say it's all about distance. I don't agree with that. I agree that first off, tee to green, ball striking is going to be the key. I think putting is actually second. You're going to see with these greens, they're fast, they're slopey, they're large. We're going to have to look at putting, but driving distance is a key factor here. So that is third on my list. Sand saves in around degree. I think from a proximity to the pin, we need to look at the 200 plus, comes up quite a bit here. And then, of course, the next would be 175 to 200. Scrambling doesn't show up a ton here, but I still think if we're going to go with some bombers, they're going to be a little wayward at times, and they're going to need to be able to make greens or get close to. You've got 8 par 4s that range between 450 to 500, and so they're going to need to be able to manage that. So we're going to look for par 4 efficiency, stroke gain there, and then you got to make your hay on the par 5s. Okay. If you also missed my preview show, I typically do 2 parts. I do a little bit of show in the field, but we didn't have pricing yesterday when I did this. But I also did another thing. I've kind of slimmed the model and analysis of the stroke gain areas to get more focused heavily on the areas that I want to look at. And so if I look at recent form, this is looking at the past 12 rounds. This is using Fantasy National for this information. That's where I do a lot of my research. And I really weighted heavily tee to green, 25%. Driving distance 15, fairways gain 5. Not as important here. You can be a little wayward, as I mentioned. There's a little more forgiveness in the fairways compared to what we've seen at Valsar, and for sure from what we've seen at Harbortown for RBC. But putting is key. That's at 15%. Your proximity from 200 plus is a big key. That's a lot of the shots are going to be coming in from there due to the length of this course. And then, of course, the next would be 175 to 200. They got to manage those par 4s, as I mentioned, and then, of course, make some hay on par 5s. So that was kind of my slim down model view I wanted to look at, and that's what I'm using pretty much for all my picks and analysis. When you click on my rank over the last 12 rounds, and this is no filters. This is just purely looking at pretty much the last 3 courses these guys played or tournaments. And here's the top guys that pop up, and the one guy you're going to see over and over and over is Bryson DeChambeau. Of course, I mentioned him in the preview show. He is definitely going to be one of my top picks. In that price range. I'm only picking one guy, and I think there's only JT and him. I think it's an 11,000 range. My guy is going to be DeChambeau. And simply put, it's not just about distance. It's everything he brings to the table. And then where he does very well, and I'll mention this again, is an air course that it's got length, like Wingfoot, like Bay Hill, where he won both times, but also the rough factor. And I don't hear a lot of the other analysts bringing this up, but there is rough here. And you are going to need to be able to get out of the rough and hit these, greens or do something at least to get yourself down. And I'm not saying this is U.S. Open kind of rough, but it is more rough than these guys have been playing in over the past few tournaments we watched. So where I've always seen DeChambeau do very well is he's got such a huge advantage when he's coming out of the rough because he's always using a shorter iron because he's so much further down there. And that really showed up at Winged Foot. And again, it showed up at Bay Hill. And I stated after Bay Hill, I will never question that theory or narrative again, that when I see a course that's got length, rough, that's moderate or maybe a little over moderate, and Bryson DeChambeau's in the field, he's going to be in my picks until proven otherwise. So anyways, get off that soapbox about DeChambeau, but I just want you guys to be able to see some of the names that pop up. These are the top 20 guys under my model, just looking at the past 12 rounds recent form. And quite a these guys we're going to talk about as I kind of move along. So if you want to understand just who hits the ball the furthest out of these guys, and that's all this is, I just clicked on distance for their past 3 tournaments or 12 rounds played. And just so you know, Ryan Brehm, this guy can just bomb the ball. Now, you can also look at the next thing, fairways gained, and it's very high off. Will Gordon, same thing. So when you think that DeChambeau is always the longest guy, yes, he leads the field off the tee, gaining strokes off the tee, but that takes into 2 effects, right? That takes fairways gained and also distance. You can see Will Gordon, we pulled just off the tee. I'd like to see how they compare over the last 12 rounds, but he's actually gaining more fairways and he's second in distance. You're going to see a guy by the name of Grayson Murray, who at 6,200 can just outlandishly just smoke the ball. But again, hitting the fairway, that's a different thing. And Grayson's actually popped up here a couple times in the past at this course, again, showing that distance definitely does help here. Wyndham Clark is kind of interesting at 6,800. He's also got a pretty solid putter. Where is he at? Well, it's not really showing that way here, but I know he can get hot with a putter. So we'll have to look a little more into that. I'm curious on why that stat is so low for him. But anyways, just to give you some idea from guys, just a pure bomber play. And then we want to look at history at Quail Hollow. I wanted to break this into 2 different ways. I wanted to look before the renovations, before the PGA, and I wanted to look after renovations. So when you look at this is history pulling 12 rounds from 2016, 2015, 2000. So this is pre-2017, I guess the simplest way to put it. And you can see, with that kind of history, who's done well here. Again, looking at these key stroke gain categories. And of course, Rory, who's won here. Phil. You've got some of these guys that pop up. I think Lucas Glover is an interesting play. Of course, Ricky Fowler pops up, who's won here. So I don't really want to hold a lot of this. I told you guys I'm going to look pretty much 2017 and after. I just wanted to show this for your own knowledge if you're curious. And remember this name, Patton Gazire. I'm going to bring him up when we get to the betting side. And then this is probably where you need to weigh more of your consideration when making bets or in your DFS lineups. And this is after the PGA renovations. And so this would be 2019, 2018, 2017, what we really want to focus on. And again, the first guy that pops up is Bryson DeChambeau. And that's why you'll see 8 rounds or 4 rounds. And that's because there was also the PGA Championship, which I will also show you next, so you can see that. But of course, Max winning here in 2019. Joel Damon, who came up in a runner-up finish. Remember that name? I'll mention that on the betting side. You had Aaron Wise, who had 2 good finishes here. I think it's a trap play. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that talk about Aaron Wise. And yes, from a tee to green, but his putting and chipping has just been god-awful. Now, can that come around? For sure. It can. But we'll look at a little history of Aaron Wise because I probably will be fading him. I think he's going to be super chalky, and I think it's a trap. Another side note is 2017 history just at the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. So again, if I lay my model over that, you're just going to see 4 rounds. Jonathan Vegas did not make the cut, so he only has 2 rounds, but did pretty well for those 2 rounds in my areas that I'm interested. And Bryson DeChambeau again pops up there at 9th place, but JT. And, we'll talk about that further when I get into the analysis. Okay. So that just gives you some looks at the different models. There's Grayson Murray again, who did make the cut. I'm just bringing him up. I'm not doing a value or sleeper show right now. He'll probably be one of mine. I'll have to do a little deeper analysis, but from a straight out just can, gain a ton of yards off the tee. Grayson Murray, if you're not familiar with him, is one of the longer players on tour off the tee. And then lastly, I showed the comp courses in the preview, but I want to just show it again. And Actually ran it. This is with, I just want to see. This looks like my older. I didn't put the new one on here. But Matty Wallace. Now remember that from a betting perspective. I'll bring that up. I'm interested in from a betting perspective. But the course is that when you turn filters on to represent Quail Hollow, what will pop up? How I'm looking at it is of course, Bay Hill. You got CC of Jackson. You got Torrey Pines. You got the Riviera, you got PGA National. You've got, what I'm curious about here is not Memorial Park where they played the recent one, but the Country Club of Houston comps out pretty well. And then you got the Golf Day Chapultepec, which they did not play there. Of course, they played a concession here recently due to the pandemic. And then the last thing I'll show you is the history just at Quail Hollow. So the last, and again, you're going to see I'm always going to keep recent form. It makes no sense from my perspective to go pull, 40 rounds, 50 rounds of, because you're going to get guys that are in terrible form. Like, even Gary Woodland, I would not even consider playing. Rory is in bad form. You've got, you could have Mickelson pop up, who's in just brutal form. Jason Day, not the player he was. Harris English, so even with pulling up 12 rounds, you can see some of these guys are going to pop in just because of the history they have playing at this course. But then again, as I mentioned, Grayson Murray pops up again, just from a curiosity standpoint, from a kind of sleeper play. Okay, let's go jump into the analysis, and then I'll summarize picks and bets. Okay, so what you're looking at here is Fantasy National. Again, this is a place that you can go get a subscription and do a ton of research. You can look at so much different things. You spend hours and hours. The good news is I've been doing this for a long time with this tool and can just kind of cut right through the BS with it. The only filter that I have on is Bermuda. I wanted that because from the putting standpoint, I wanted that to reflect in my rankings. I'm going to be looking at the past 12 rounds. I've created this view, which I call the Wells Fargo. And you guys, if you've been with me, you're going to notice I always want to give you a good visual of, what's my main thing, and that's tee to green, and we'll see how they're doing there. Then I kind of break it down into a little more specific. So, we mentioned driving distance is key, putting, approach, that proximity from 200 out and 450 to 500. And then over here, we can look at tournament history, or if I click on it, you can also just look at recent results. So what I've kind of done is a little more, I'm trying to, from this perspective, from a DFS perspective, pick, between all the different kind of platform. And I've done this in my previous, I used to kind of just go through the ranges of pricing. And so trying to get a little more back to that, I want to make sure that when I give you guys my picks, that it is, that you have the ability to build some teams. And of course, you got to kind of wait for my value side to bring up the lower end, but even for my high side. So right off the gate, we have a choice at the 11,000 range. There's only two guys, and that's JT or Bryson DeChambeau. I'm not picking JT because of the disaster putting round he just showed us, because what you're going to hear from here and everywhere, that's JT. He can do that. Now I didn't go back and do all, tons. Well, you know what? We can do it. Let's go just see from a putting perspective. If you look, he's actually been losing strokes over his last 5 tournaments. So the putter hasn't been that good over the last 5 tournaments. Yes, that one tournament probably really skewed it, but you can see here at the Genesis, he also lost 6 strokes. And then, he'll pop back. I mean, his best putting performance we've seen over like the last 5 or 6 tournaments was at the Waste Management, but those are pretty simple greens. I want to say they're, it's a putt-putt course, but they're not difficult as the ones that he's going to be putting on this upcoming weekend. But you can see, he can go from gaining 5, losing almost a stroke, gain 5, lose 3, gain a little, lose, the short of it is what I'm just showing you is that the guy can be very volatile and then come right back. I mean, here's a perfect is lose, at the Sony, which a pretty, again, simpler track. And then here you go at the same course, same greens. He gained 4 strokes at the Waste Management the prior year. And then I just showed you guys that he lost, almost 6 strokes. Oh, I apologize. Nope, he gained strokes there again. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought on one of them he lost strokes, but neither here or there. The short of all that is he can go one tournament and not be good in the other. So it wasn't so much that. It's just out of the two, if I got to put my money, I mean, you can see just overall putting, DeChambeau's much better. You're winning on the distance. On approach, now, he's losing. Of course, JT has always been very elite at that. But the proximity, I mean, you can look at this from 200, which I think is a very key thing to look at. It's a lot of the approach shots will be coming in there. You got 1 and 2. So, I mean, if you want to get a little crazy, you could build a team starting both of them. And then, but this is also one of the areas that kind of pushed me over the side was this ranking, on 450 to 500. Good. They're both solid out of this field, but he's 5th again. And a lot of that has to do with what he's hitting. So if he's hitting it on average, let's just say 320, 330, comparative. And like I said, it's not like JT. He's got some distance. You can see 26 ranked. But anyways, what it really all goes back to is the rough, and that he's got some room to move it around a little bit. He doesn't have to be dead accurate here. This isn't, again, Harbor Town or something like that. So for me, you're also saving $300, but that's really not it. DeChambeau is going to be the guy that I would lead off out of that. And then from the 10,000 range, I only picked one guy out of here for you. There's only 5 guys, and my guy's going to be Rahm. The only thing that's been kind of keeping me away from Rahm is this putter, but that is something that I think will come back. But he does just everything else so elite here. Of course, in 2017, he had a 4th. That was at, let's go pull up Rahm. That's got to be the PGA Championship is what that's pulling in, and not Wells Fargo. Nope, it's showing Wells Fargo. So that was at Eagle Point. So we can't really count that. And that's something I'm sure probably people did not bring up, that his 4th place finish is not at Quail Hollow. That would be at Eagle Point Golf Club. But if we look at the PGA for 2017 he had a 58. So that's actually not exactly. But let's go take a look at what he's done at some of the other ones I want to look at. So he didn't play. So the Farmers, which is Torrey Pines, I think that's a good comp course. He's been elite there. What did he do at the Genesis? He had a 5th and a 9th, 5th recently. So he's done well there all 3 times. I don't know if he played the Houston. No. What about WGC? And what we want to look at is this one right here. Okay, that's at the Club Day Chapultepec. And if you look at that course, it is POA, so it's not Bermuda, different putting surface. But from a length, from a green speed, hitting fairways difficult, there's a lot of similarities. It's also got some trees at that course. If you've ever seen it, if you remember it. But yeah, long story short, Rahm's been playing well. You can see what his, tee to green is staying at, gaining, excuse me, on average around 20 strokes. So I have no problem. And then just so you know, this tee to green is over the last 12 rounds too. This information is last 12 rounds that they've played. This is also last 12 rounds. Just want to verify that. And like I said, Schauffele, he's over the last 12, nothing spectacular. Of course, we look at recent, he had that T3, but missed a cut the Players. Concession, the Genesis at a 15th. I mean, all these guys you could make an argument for. I mean, there's people that outright are betting Webb, and, there's some reasons, but I've said this all year. Webb is just not doing the things that Webb used to do very well. And I'm not worried about the driving distance with Webb. It was more around this right here, the putter, where he used to be, elite. And for his game, he needs to gain some major strokes on the field. He also used to do this very well with his hybrids or 3 woods, whatever, that 200 plus. So he's fallen a little bit there. So that's part of the reason. Rory, I can't touch the guy until I see something that's telling me. I mean, I think there's first it was not swing issues, it was putter issues. And then he had the swing issues with the putter issues. So I just don't know where he's at mentally. Now, maybe since the Masters, he's really worked on it. It's got his confidence. But until you put whatever you worked on into tournament play, it's a total different ball game. You could be, I'm sure all of you, if you played the game of golf, it's a different ball game when you're at the range than when you actually go play around and keep strokes and are playing with or against other people. Night and day. So anyways. So my next guy, so now we move down to 9,000 range. And this one, maybe took a little more. There were some guys I was pretty interested in. I'll tell you the ones that I was kind of in between. Cantlay, same with Rory. Nope. Until I see some form again. I mean, you can see 3 missed cuts. And if you've just been watching, this is interesting. I don't understand how. I guess he's just dead even. But yeah, it doesn't gain or lose, which I don't understand that piece of information coming in there. But Cantlay, not good. Will Z, of course he had the, not the good show on RBC, but that course just, I think I stated was not a good fit for him. Um, I think he needs some length, and I think he does all these things elite. So you're going to see him dipping here a little, but that's just kind of the RBC stuff. I was in between, I'm going with Victor and Finau, but I also was interested in Will Z and Corey Connors. I actually went with Corey Connors over Hovland last week and paid for that. So who knows? It could be Corey Connors this week. Hovland could, they're both can go kind of flip flop. But anyways, if we go pull up Vic. Okay, so if we look at Victor Hovland, of course, he had that, crazy Sunday where he went in fuego. That's not what I'm really basing this on. But if we go look at what he's done, so the Arnold Palmer, kind of blah. I'd say that's nothing to write home about. It's not a reason. But the Farmers recently at Torrey, he came in second. At the Genesis, he came in fifth. The Honda, he missed a cut, but that was a previous year. What about at the Houston Open? So that one, I just want to verify. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that one, it says 20, but it was actually 21. So that doesn't really count. That's Memorial Park. And it's not a really good comp for what we're looking at. So I can't use that. Let's go back. Sorry. There was a couple more things I wanted to look at. So we looked at the Houston, WGC. That's at concession. So we can't really use that one. And the Masters twice. The recent one, he had a 21st. And then also, I don't know if he's ever played. So my other one, Sanderson Farms, that's at CC of Jackson. But a lot of these guys probably won't play that track. But it is kind of my, just, if I want to look at one more. And he's never played this event. Okay. Tony Finau, again, kind of up and down. But, he actually carried the team at Zurich, which, of course, we're not seeing any of that information. But, if he would have had someone just to help him, he could have done well at the Zurich. But he had champed it on. I don't know. If I had what I saw, and I watched quite a bit of it, I think literally they might have used a few shots each round from Champ. It was pretty rough. But if we go look at Tony, we'll go look at those comp courses comparables too. Also, I do this so you guys can look at. This is the I didn't show on the main overview. Sometimes I do the putting splits, but you can see here, this is over the life of their career, just so you know. But I did show that bar, and that is pulling Bermuda, just so you know when it's rating against. Okay, so we go look at, well, first let's do Wells. So Wells Fargo, some 20th. So he doesn't have a great track record. He had Quell under that event. The Arnold Palmer, which is not the 21, but the 20, he had a miscut. What about the Farmers? So the Farmers, he's done very well there. So Torrey Pines, remember that. And I think that's a good comp course. A little different, right? That's POA. There's probably a little more wind. But, from a kind of the way the course lays out, from a distance perspective, there's some good correlation there. Where was I at there? I apologize. So we did the Genesis at Riviera. He's had a couple second place finishes. Good comp course. What about the Honda? A couple miscuts, but it's been a while since he's played the Honda. It's kind of funny you see a guy have a couple miscuts at an event and then you don't see him there. If they just make the decision like, nope, I'm not playing there again. That would be the Houston Open at Memorial, so I don't really want to count that. What about WGC Mexico? So this is the one we'd want to look at, 25th and a 20. That's both at the course that I'm using, the Golf Day Chapultepec. Of course, the Masters, we know he's had a pretty good track record at Augusta. And he has played the Sanderson Farms once, but that was way back in 2014. Okay. All right. My next guy would be Max Homa. I wasn't actually going to pick Max. I don't really like picking the guys that, won previous year. I mean, there's just my own kind of personal thoughts on that. But there's a reason why this guy won here. And this is, I'm not even really going, I'm just saying this is over his past 12 rounds. Of course, we got to see what he did at Valspar. Yes, he had a bad Sunday. I think he shot one over. But everything that I want from a player, Max does almost better Just trying to see from an overall perspective. I mean, the guy that would be better than him. So literally, DeChambeau, Homa, from just a model analysis perspective, are the two guys that really fit what I'm looking for. Of course, we can go click on Max, and we know quite a bit. So he is gaining on Bermuda over the life of his career. Of course, West Coast kid. POA is his favorite. And if we go pull up the Arnold Palmer, he recently had a 10th, but a 24th the previous year. What did he do at the Farmers? An 18th and a 9th. Of course, we know he won the Genesis and then had a 5th before that at Riviera. So, good track record there. The Honda, a 20th, that was in 2019, and a miscut. The Houston Open, but that was at Memorial, so we can't really use that. WGC Mexico, that doesn't count because that's at Florida at Concession. What about the Masters? Nope. And Sanderson Farms, a couple of miscuts, but that was a little while ago. Also remember that it was funny. I think they were talking to Max and just said, what's the difference? You've never made a cut at the Valspar at Copperhead. And you said, you know what, I'm a way better player now. And that is true. And there's some of these guys where it goes either way, where their confidence and their game has improved significantly. And that's why we're always trying to look at, again, for me, the recent information. And then you've got the guys that have actually went the opposite way. And again, so it just kind of filters that nonsense out. Sanjay M, I was kind of a little bit back and forth. But there really wasn't another guy in the upper eights that I was interested in. So, Max kind of ended at the 9. So that kind of filled. I mean, I guess technically I had 3 guys at the 9. But, Sanjay M, just keeps from a ball striking, been doing well. His irons were a little off and on. His distance you're going to see is, not great, but this course you also don't have to hit it. I know we want guys that hit it further, but you don't have to hit it. I mean, the difference between 320 and 290, 300, is not huge. Now, if you're hitting it maxed out 275, there might be a problem. But, Sanjay's results been good. He had a 31st here the last time I was played in 2019. Just everything that I started to kind of think. And then, of course, if we go, of course, run, and of course, he's a great putter on Bermuda. That was also a reason. But the Arnold Palmer, he's done really well there. A couple thirds and a 21st. The Farmers, he had a second at Sanderson. That's one of the other ones. But, still had pretty good results at Torrey Pines, at the Farmers. The Genesis, a couple miscuts, which is interesting. Of course, he won the Honda and had an 8th recently. That's at PGA National. The Houston Open, can't count that. WGC. So we'd be looking at this guy here. He had a 29th. And Sanders, I just wanted to see at his 2nd and a 28th. Okay. So, I mean, from all the course perspective, Sanjay is just, I think he's cresting on to be one of the elite players from a consistency side. I mean, you could almost bang him against Schauffele and look at their results now. Of course, from a win perspective, Schauffele would have a little bit of a notch, but not much. And I'm just saying from a pricing perspective, Xander's priced up at 10.5, and I think M is about the same talent from my own view, and it's quite a bit of difference in price. Okay, of course, Keegan, again, wasn't 100% sure about Keegan, but he's been in great recent form. You can see, he's almost kind of leading tee to green out of this whole field. He does everything we want, and of course, he can go full Keegan, as you kind of saw what happened on the back 9 at Valspar, where the putter finally caught up with him. Usually, that's his Achilles heel, as you can see here. But he's been doing a lot better with it. And you can see, I like when I start to see this trend in recent results. And of course, if you look at past history here, it's not good. But that's not my real worry. There's no reason why this course couldn't work out well for him. I just want to see what the big issue was here for him. And I'm guessing it's this guy right here, as you can see over the life of him, kind of a negative on Bermuda. But let's go look at the Wells Fargo info. And we can see, what my worries would be: get lost 3 strokes putty. This would be the reason why I thought he'd miss. But you can also see he had a bad, actually the cut he made was he gained on strokes and lost everywhere else, which that's always interesting. Okay, just was kind of curious on that one. Well, while we're here, let's go look at the other courses for you guys. So if we look at Arnold, he had a 10th recently. If we look at the Farmers, and you also get the Sanders thrown in there, some really good finishes at Torrey. Just note to self when the Farmers Open comes up, he is definitely a live play there. How do you do with the Genesis recently? Well, he had a 60th, so nothing to write home about there. He had a 30th at the Honda. Miscut the Houston Open. He played WGC Mexico. He did, and he had a 10th. That's pretty interesting. It's a good comp course. That is, and it's pretty recent. I mean, this all kind of states what you want to see. This, not what you want to see. If he would have, had just even, he might have won that tournament. Anyways, one of the plays, of course, Tringali. I'm not going to go a ton. I mean, great recent form. You can see here he's done everything well. You know, tee to green is perfect where we want it. Been really good with the flat stick too. And you can see Bermuda's, over his career is not his number one suit. But, when you see all green over his last 20 tournaments, that is a good thing to see. And, yeah, he gained quite a bit of strokes with the putter, but, he's done it also at the AT&T on a different surface. So that's Bermuda, that's POA. He's done it at the Shriners, which that is bent. So that's interesting. That just on, you can look at some of his best showings have been on, I don't think surface means a whole lot to him is what this information is telling me. Okay, let's just go see Arnold Palmer. He had a 31st recently at the Farmers. He had an 18th at the Genesis. He had a 26th at the Honda. He had a 13th. The Houston Open, we want to look at the one at 2019. He had a 13th. WGC Mexico, he's never played. I remember that from before. The Masters, that can't count that. That's 2015. There's no reason. And then Sanderson Farms, recent one was the 37th, but he also has 16th. So, again, like everything that Tringali has been bringing to the table, so I'm going to stick with that. Shane Lowry, just for your own knowledge, has been looking pretty good. I kind of was back and forth on Shane. He's had some good finishes. The RBC, that course, he just likes that course. So, it is what it is. I almost think it's kind of interesting. And we just look at this information. This is a short track. This is a short track. This is a longer track. And this is a longer track. And just kind of funny how that works out, that he does well, even though he's got some distance and good on approach. But, maybe this is the telling factor. From 200 out, he kind of struggles. So, anyways, I'm not going to go anymore with Lowry, but, I looked into him and just, that was no message. Emiliano, I was actually not real sure I was going to give it a go again, but again, everything from Emiliano, he had that 5 under on Thursday, shot 5 over on Friday at the Valspar, but still, the guy is just elite tee to green. He's, shown he's made the cut here every time, had a T9. Everything is kind of pointing in a direction that, I want to play Emiliano. I'm going to stick with him. If you want to curious, I can pull up his, of course, over the life, the guy is just lost, except I'm bent, funny enough. And then you can always see, real good visual of tee to green, elite, and once he gets around the green or on it, it's where he will have his struggles. We already looked at the Wells Fargo, so we pull up Arnold Palmer. He had a 21st recently. The Farmers, miscut. Just trying to see. He had a 12th back in 2018 at Torrey Pines. Again, don't really, Genesis miscut recently. But the Honda miscut in 20. Houston Open miscut. WGC Mexico, and that's the one we actually want to look at. Struggle a little bit off the tee, but wow. I'm shocked he even made the cut with that kind of numbers. Sanderson Farms, 35th and a 39th. So you can kind of see why I was back and forth on Emiliano, but I'm going to stick with him. I think, what his game brings off the tee and around, if he can just stick. What I didn't show, let's go right back to Emiliano just real quick. that he has. So out of the 4 events, he's gained out of 2 of them. He gained 2.8 here. So it's kind of been on and off, right? I mean, check this out. I mean, again, if you're just a stat geek, like a little bit, sometimes I feel like I am. Gained almost 3, lost, gained, lost, gained, lost. So if we keep going with that little theory, he should gain this time. And if he gains with the putter, that's when Emiliano could end up with the top 10. But that is all if buts. Stuart Sink, this is kind of funny. I really had no desire, and I don't know if I've ever. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe in my value plays I've picked Stuart Sink, but I know in my top 15 I've never picked Stuart Sink, and really didn't plan on it. But the more I start thinking about his game in this course, people when you think of Stuart Sink wouldn't think driving distance, but the guy on average hits at 300, a little over. So distance ain't a problem. Approach is definitely not a problem. And again, this is like at the last 12 rounds. Maybe here, you can see a little yellow, but his putter, as you saw when it gets hot, he can do a lot of damage. Now, if we go, and like I said, you can say, well, Kirk, this was a short course he won on, but, what do you win the Safeway? That's a little shorter track. We'll go pull that up. But the Honda and the Masters, I mean, done well, and those are not short courses. So let's go look at Mr. Stewie Sink's kind of information. So Bermuda over the life of his career is his #1 surface. Okay, well, we look at Wells Fargo. So Wells Fargo, that was probably another thing was, he's made the cut 4 out of the 5 times. Best showing was way back in 2012. But if we look at the Arnold Palmer, he had a 47th. What about the Farmers? So we can also see the Sanderson Farms while we're there. So a 12th and a 55th. Did I do the Honda? He had a 19th recently. Doesn't like to play in WGC events where he didn't make. I guess he didn't make probably the cut to do it. We already saw the Masters, had a pretty good track record there when he's got to play. And Sanderson just to pull up, 12th, 28th. Okay, so yeah, I like Stewie Sink. If you just, I'm not looking for him to win, but get us for that price tag, 7,900. Get us a top 20, and could be worth it. And the guy does get some birdie streaks. I mean, you remember the RBC man? What did he shoot? Let's go look. It was kind of ridiculous. I know the first 2 days, 63, 63? If I go off just my brain. Yeah. Now, again, different course, but that's pretty crazy. Back-to-back 63s. Anyways, so all I'm saying is putter gets hot, he can go low. And he's shown it recently. Lucas Glover, been in great form. You can see his past history here. It's great. Recent history, great. You see here he does everything I like, gaining, tee to green on the uptick too. So I'm not going to spend any more time on Lucas. I think that's not a hard sell. Last thing I think about Lucas is it's kind of funny. I used to play him. I call him Lucas Smell the Glove. If you've ever seen Spinal Tap, the movie, you'll get that reference. He used to be an awesome showdown play. Still is, but he used to be sneaky showdown play. And now because he's been doing well and, showing up on the leaderboards, everybody's kind of on that bandwagon. Then my 2 doppelganger guys, Streelman and Steele, typically, when these guys were priced a little better, and they're not ridiculous, but they were also good plays. Streelman, it doesn't really show here, but, he can get out there and poke that ball. It'll shock you. You wouldn't think it. But both these guys I kind of looked at, but, overall, I'm going to go with the hot HV3. Of course, he had that at the RBC, had that T2, shorter track. But that means that he's hitting the ball not only, as he can hit it pretty long, but he's also hitting accurate. Overall, not the greatest pass history here, but everything that for the last 12 rounds he's played, he's doing what I want to see. And his tee to green is on the up. It all comes down to the putter with Harold. And we can go, because he can be one of those, I'd say a volatile pick. You can see, as I mentioned, with the putter, not exactly, but he's found something over his last. So 4 out of the 5 last round or tournaments he's played, he's actually gained with the putter, which is, shocking. Of course, we probably won't see this 5.6 again, but if he can just stay around a +1, I mean, as you see, there can also be a lot of red with the putter. Let's go take a look at Arnold Palmer. He had a 21st recently. Farmers was a miscut. The Genesis, he had a 62nd, but a 13th prior to that. The Honda 19th, 42nd. The Houston Open, but that's at Memorial, so can't really count that one. WGC, nope. Never played the Masters, which I didn't think. Sanderson Farms. Shocked he hasn't played that more. It seems like a tournament more, I don't want to call them the B squad, but definitely one. Taylor Gooch, I wasn't actually really mentally thinking. I mean, when I think of Taylor Gooch, I think awesome elite long irons. And you can see with approach, second. So, the more I kind of thought about it, that, you know what, I want to give Gooch a shot. And this also is a little bit for me. I used to always play Burns and Gooch together a lot, again, in showdowns. And just they always, again, for me, a little bit doppelganger, just their games and how they could have, an amazing round and then have a, not a great round. But of course, we already know what Gooch did. That would have been, what was that at the Genesis? He popped up. Also, the Players was the one that I think I was thinking of. But Arnold Palmer, good comp course. He's at a 13th, but a 43rd recently. See the Farmers, good track record. Best finish was a third at Torrey back in 2019. If we go look at the Genesis, of course, as I mentioned, a 10th, a 12th. So all these tracks are tough, long tracks, and he seems to shine there. The Houston Open. Now, funny enough, these are two different courses, as I mentioned. This is CC of Houston, which is the comp course. This is Memorial Park, but funny enough, he finished fourth at both. The Masters, I don't think he's ever played. And Sanderson Farms, also good showing. 14th would be his best. So, yeah, that's probably the one kind of pick that, maybe, I don't know, did he miss? Yeah, he missed a cut at the Valspar. So right now his ownership's less than 10%. I hope it stays that way. He could be kind of the sneaky pick that we want. Why I'm here, because I'm looking at Joel Damon. He is actually going to be, so I bet Joel Damon for a top 10 finish. And, of course, that was due to a little bit is this. He's had a T16, a T2nd. He also just won Corrales. Now we can see that over his last 12 rounds, not great. Let's go look at, I just want to see, you know what? I don't get the, so that's the problem. I don't get stroke gain data here. So I didn't take that into effect because I was curious why he was red. But he also had not a bad show at the Players, just disastrous with the putter. And that's, as you can see, if Joel Damon gets hot with the putter, can do okay. But anyways, all I'm talking about for Joel Damon is I'm betting him top 10. It's 11-1. I like it for 11-1 odds. It's not great, but then you might be able to find better. Check out Odds Checker. That was on DraftKings, was just where I do all my betting too, because the money just kind of moves between the two apps. Okay. Also, Matty Wallace never played in this event, but of course we know he's been just popping up on the radar. If you see his tee to green is just en fuego, on fire. Does everything well except that 200 out. I don't know how much data we're going to get at a lot of these courses that I want to pull, but let's go take a look. So we look at the Arnold Palmer. Yeah, he had an 18th recently. What about the Farmers? So this is where I was curious. I don't think he played a lot of the West Coast. He doesn't play no, not a West Coast guy, but he'll do the Florida swing. A couple miscuts, but he did have a 20th a while back at the PGA National. What about Houston? Don't play that. WGC Mexico, he should play that. So this is the one. I just want to verify. Now I just got confused. Yeah, both of those we can look at. Sorry, that just went away. WGC Mexico. So both these are good. Both at Golf Day Chapultepec. Love saying that course. Okay. And I don't think he's ever played Sanderson Farms. No. So anyways, Matty Wallace, I am using him as a DFS play. I think for that price, 7,500 is a good value for him. What we've seen, even though he's no history here, but playing the tough tracks that I like. And then from a outright to win, 80-1, I made that bet. So it's also going to be one of my bets that I want to share with you guys. And Matt Jones. I don't think this is my last guy, because then below here I'm using for my value plays. Of course, the one tournament that he just stood out also in the wind, won the Honda, did well at the Masters, did well at the Genesis. He's probably also one of my favorite plays at this price tag. And, funny enough, I didn't even look at his odds, but I might put a bet on Matt Jones. Maybe like a top 10. I don't know if I'll bet him outright to win. But tournament history here has been solid. If we go jump and we'll just go look at some of Matt Jones' info. Of course, good putter on Bermuda over the history of his career. So the Arnold Palmer miscut recently, but a 47th, a third, a 14th. So he's got a bit of history there at Bay Hills. So I'd call it pretty decent history. The Farmers, again, a 13th, but recently a 48. So, at Torrey. The Genesis, of course, we saw that 8th, then a couple of miscuts and a 14th. The Honda, of course, he won. And it's kind of funny. If you looked at this history there, you'd be like, okay, yeah, I mean, way back, but that can happen. All comes together. WGC Mexico, never played. And then he did play in the Masters recently. He had 26. That's pretty good. And then Sanderson Farms does not like the CC of Jackson. Note to self. Okay, that's it for at least, and again, what I'll have tomorrow is, then finding my guys that we want to play for my value picks below. All right, let's go wrap this up. I'm calling them my Fab 5 picks now, my top 5 picks. And starting right out, of course, DeChambeau, my number 1 pick. Actually put a decent-sized bet on him. I think it's, 18-1 or something like that I got on him. But it was, worth enough. Like I said, and typically you're going to notice when I talk about betting, I like good odds. If I'm going to bet, I like some solid odds. But I feel like he's got a really good chance to win. And, he had some better odds than some of the other guys up there. You got, Rahm. I think this is a great place for him to really kind of shine and finally get that putter going. It's been a while for him to get a hot putter. 20 Finau. Could we finally see a win outside of Puerto Rico? This could be it. I mean, the guy does everything well, except for the putter here. So if that's hot, it's all I need is just get a good putting round and do what you do, ball striking, and you're going to get your next win. Of course, Victor Hovland. It was between him and Connors. I think they're so similar. I think Victor Hovland can at times score better. Connors can come through too with scoring, but I'm just, like I said, this is a coin toss. You could put either one in, but I'm going to go with Hovland this time. And then, of course, Max Homa, defending champion. I was not really planning on him, especially, just playing recently and had kind of that kind of, what do you call it? I mean, you're in contention, so, there was some mental spend there, but yeah, everything he does and what his form is, I can't come up with a reason why not to play him. And so that is it. So that's my top 5 picks. The next I'd put it is Tringali, Grillo, Keegan, if he can get that putter going, could get his next win. The Gooch man, he's due. Fits these kind of courses well. And then Sungjae M, I'd call that, he'd probably be my condom play. I don't look at him to go out and win, but he's going to give you a couple, decent, typically he's going to give you a couple rounds in the 60s, maybe one in the 70s, one high 60s. And then my last 5, Matt Jones, I really like. Probably one of the better value plays as I discussed. I like Matty Wallace too from a value play, as in for what they're costing, what you're getting. HV3, probably my most volatile pick. I've just seen this guy. He can go from T2 at RBC and come out here and miss the cut by 10 strokes. But if his game's on, the guy can as you see, can do well. Lucas Glover just been solid for him. I'm just going to stick with that. I hope the putter kind of stays with him, and if it does, he could have another top 10 finish. And last but not least, of course, Stuart Sink, been in great form, and wasn't really leaning toward Stuart Sink, but I think overall I'm going to get him in my top 15. And then last, I'm going to do this for you guys because, like I said, I'm doing more betting now that it's been turned on in our state for the last few months. And so some of my favorite bets, as I already mentioned, I'll just summarize it. And I don't know if I talked about Patty Kazire. It's probably the one I didn't cover. For a first round leader, Patton Kazire, and I went and did some analysis, but just from what I've been seeing, has had some really low rounds lately. Of course, not putting it all together, but at the Valspar, he had a 66. I don't know if that was round 1. And then at the Valero, he had a 65 round 4. And also at Valspar, he started out on Sunday, his first 9 holes, he was 5 under, and then some bogeys came on the back. But anyways, for 100-1, you throw $10 on that or $20 on it, it can make your weekend. So that's my first round leader pick. Of course, I already mentioned my outright winner from a betting perspective, 80-1 again for the odds. I think this could be a place for Wallace finally breaks through. I mean, if you think about Sam Burns, was kind of the same thing, kind of get in contention, and finally get your win. And then, for a top 10, top 10 finishes from an odds perspective is I don't play a lot of them because it's hard to get paid. Like I said, I hit that 140 to 1 last week with Vaughn Taylor. But I liked 11 to 1 for Damon. He's been in pretty good form. Give it a shot. And speaking of Joel Damon, to wrap it up, thank you guys. That is it. I will have my value picks tomorrow, weather, everything you need before the lock. I will get that out, or any information I glean from any of the pressers or weather, you name it. I'll make sure if there's anything you guys need to know about, you will hear it from me. And again, I would appreciate it greatly if you would like what you're seeing, click the like button and share. And I always said if you don't, or if you have suggestions, something that you'd like to see a little different with the show, this is your guys' show. I'm doing this for you guys. I'd love to get your input. If you have any input or anything you'd like to see different, let me know. And if you haven't subscribed, I am trying to get to 500 subscribers, keep growing the base. Please do click the subscribe button if you've not signed up for a YouTube account. I was there. I used to watch a lot of content before I signed up, didn't understand, really the whole thing of, the subscribe base and all that, how it works. So it takes 2 seconds, go sign up for a YouTube account and then click subscribe. And last but not least, if I can help you with anything, please let me know. Of course, one and done I did not cover. Of course, if you've not used DeChambeau, I'm all in on DeChambeau. If it's more kind of a middle pick, I think, like I said, Finau or Connors. If you've burnt those guys, think of one other one. Any of the guys that I picked that you saw within the top 10 picks, I would use for one and done and feel very comfortable that they could, do it here for you guys. Okay, but on that, if you need anything else, any questions, hit me up at the YouTube comments or on DFS Twitter, or at DFS Golf Guru on the Twitter sphere. All right, guys, thanks so much. Best of luck to us this weekend, and I'll be back with you guys tomorrow.